Although it's already been out in the States for about 3 weeks, Get Out only hit UK cinemas today and I managed to sneak in a viewing of it this morning. The movie has received critical acclaim from nearly every critic who's reviewed it, but being the cynical bastard that I am, I always tend to worry a little when a film garners a ton of praise, just in case it doesn't manage to live up to my expectations. For example, last week I watched Kong Skull Island, a film that has also achieved a large amount of positive feedback, and to be honest I thought it was absolutely awful, which is a topic to discuss maybe for another day. Anyway, getting back to the subject at hand, I'm glad to say that Get Out completely managed to meet the big expectations I had for it and then some. Simply put, it's the best film I've seen this year, which is surprising when you take into account that I'm not really that much of a horror movie fan. The reason why I don't really care for the genre is that I find most horror films to be far too predictable, boring and full of cliches. I remember a couple of years ago watching Insidious Chapter 3 and Poltergeist within a couple of months of one another, and all I took away from these movies was that they were pretty much the same film just with different titles attached to them. I mean, both feature a house haunted by a demon, both have an exorcist visit said house, and in both films the protagonists travel to another dimension to confront the evil spirit. And it's not only these horror movies that are guilty of continuously repeating these same tried and tested tropes. In fact, during its opening 15 minutes, Get Out doesn't do too much to differentiate itself from other films in the genre. However, by its finale, the viewer's presumptions are completely thrown out the window, as the movie gives the horror genre a real kick up the arse it so desperately needs. At the start of the film we are introduced to Chris Washington, a young black male, and his white girlfriend Rose Armitage. Now, I wouldn't normally draw attention to the colour of a character's skin when describing them, as like MJ said, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. However, ideals surrounding race play a big part in this movie, which is why I feel it's necessary to point out that the film focuses on a mixed race couple. I mean, within the first 5 minutes of the film, Rose mentions to Chris about meeting her parents, to which Chris replies, "Do they know I'm black?" As a white male, I've never once had to give a second thought to worrying about what a girlfriend's parents thought of my ethnic background. And it's interesting to see a character bring this up, as it's obviously unfortunately still a problem in some parts of the world today. Chris travels with Rose to meet her family and it makes for some uncomfortable viewing. We see Rose's dad tell Chris about how much he loves Obama and how he'd vote for him a third term if he could. Rose's brother then talks about Chris's superior genetic makeup and how he could be a beast if he put his mind to it. And we then see extended family and friends ask Rose if sex with Chris is better due to the fact that he's, well, black. I mean, meeting your partner's parents is usually awkward enough first time round anyway, and poor Chris has to put up with a ton of racial nonsense on top of that as well. Of course, there's more to be worried about than just odd upper class white people at Rose's parents' house, and it quickly becomes apparent that there is something majorly wrong with the black employees who help out around the property. When Chris attempts to converse with them, they all seem robotic in nature, and it's obvious to viewers early on in the film that things aren't as they seem. To be honest, I thought I had the whole film sussed out before its first act finished, but the final third managed to pull off a great twist that even I didn't see coming. I don't want to spoil the film for those who haven't seen it, but all I will say is that the film reminds me more of Shutter Island than a conventional horror film. Once you understand what is going on, there's an extensive amount of references and moments throughout the film that make more sense. For instance, there's a moment in the film where Rose's father is holding a party at his house, and he and some guests decide to play a game of bingo in the garden. Upon first viewing, it seems like a really random and odd scene thrown in for no real reason. However, after the big secret of the film revealed, it clicked with me what was actually going on in this scene. And I'm sure that there's other little moments that allude to the ending like this one scattered throughout the rest of the film. In fact, I think Get Out is one of those rare films that might actually be better when viewed for a second or third time. The movie also features a great soundtrack which is phenomenal throughout. It's used to great effect to really heighten the tension during some of the more intense scenes. I also like the fact that the movie doesn't rely on jump scares, which I always feel are quite a cheap tactic. In fact, there is only one jump scare in the movie and it takes place during the first 10 minutes of it. To conclude, Get Out isn't your average horror flick. If like me you're tired of dumb overused plot points, even dumber characters and poor writing when it comes to watching a horror, then this film will feel like a breath of fresh air. It wonderfully builds its world throughout the movie until it delivers a fantastic crescendo of a final act that makes you realise how deceptively clever the film has been all along. So far it's my film of 2017 and you owe it to yourself to give it a watch.